Alrighty all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. Today we've got a video called Why Aussies Want the Old Australia Back. This is by Australian Guard. Please go and check out his channel and the original video so you can watch it without my commentary if you so wish to. So check the video description. The link is there. Let's jump in.
True blue, don't say you're gone.
There once was a country called Australia, a land of wide open spaces, backyard cricket, meat pies and mateship. A land built by hard work, faith, sacrifice and shared values. We honoured our culture, we built communities, we went to church and operated in a healthy, homogenous society. Mum stayed home, Dad worked hard, the kids ran barefoot outside and came home when the street lights turned on. You didn't need two incomes, you didn't need a 30-year mortgage, and you didn't need to apologise for being Australian.
Alright, he said three very important things there. Number one, you don't need to apologise for being Australian. What I've noticed a lot, especially over the last 20 years or more even, is that look, without sounding racist here, you get a lot of people who have other heritages that aren't, I guess, Australian. I guess we're all immigrants in some way. However, they don't follow the culture. They make blatant fun of Aussie people. Call you Skippy and all this sort of thing. Make fun of the accent. We experienced it firsthand. Call you a bogan, call you a knocker, whatever it may be. Secondary to that, working two jobs. Well, that's all a whole construct by society, isn't it? To get more taxation revenue. You think about that. Double the workers, double the taxation, double the GDP. The company, the country, well, I can call it the company. The country prospers, while the quality of life degrades. That's my honest opinion of why that's been brought in. And what happens when you have double income households on a wider scale? The cost of everything inflates. More money means they can just charge you more for it. You're not really overly better off. It's just now two people have to work like a dog instead of one. Think about housing, the biggest cost to any person living in Australia. It's either going to be a rent, which has gone through the roof, or it's going to be a mortgage. And the mortgages are going to be very high due to the appreciation of property values, due to there being more money in the economy, two-income households, relaxed rules on credit and longer mortgages, like you said, 30-year mortgages. Those weren't a thing, probably in 1960. I've heard this. People, mum and dad, or a couple before they have kids, they both go to work. They buy their house for 3 times income, which was sort of standard back then. They both go hard, saving, working. One wage goes to supporting and having a life. The other one goes straight on the mortgage. Boom, done in 5 years. I've heard multiple people of the boomer generation say that. And so what? They could be 30 years old, debt-free, no house, which is the biggest cost and limiting factor to the quality of life these days. So it's just a different world we live in.
This is the story of how that country has been dismantled, piece by piece, and why we want it back. To support us, consider becoming a YouTube channel member or Patreon, or see our new merch line, links in the description below. Australia used to be proud of its identity. We were a British/European Christian nation in law, in values, and in culture. We knew who we were, why we were here, and we knew what we stood for. Family, mateship, faith, and respect. But today, that identity has been almost completely scrubbed out, even to the point that Australian flags are now offensive, even on Australia Day. And our history only recently has been changed and rewritten through a lens of shame and guilt. Young Australians are taught to reject their heritage, not to honour it or keep it. They're told our ancestors were oppressors, that their values are outdated and beliefs are bigotry. But this isn't...
I mean, I'm sure a lot of things happened that are not good during the colonisation, right? I'm not going to discount that in any way. But why do we still need to hear about it 250 years later all the time? Why? Let's get on with life. Why this country that has been built off the back of that colonisation, this great way of life, which is slowly, well, not slowly, quickly eroding away from us, that people are enjoying, can then sit back with all the comforts that this country has to offer and opportunities and say, oh, let's not appreciate Australia Day. Let's cancel Australia Day. And let's not sell Australia Day merchandise because that's politically incorrect. It's Invasion Day and blah 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 blah. Come on, it's 250 years ago. All right, 250 years, 250 years. Come on, let's move on.
Progress. This is an erasing of culture that has been around for centuries, and the result? A generation with no anchor, no national pride, no sense of keeping to our culture and traditions, and no sense of belonging. Even our sport culture has changed. Like, remember the great Aussie sporting characters? You know, the cricketers with a big but lovable personalities like Merv Hughes, Shane Warne, Dennis Lilly, Andrew Simons, Matty Hayden, or the footy players with extreme backbone. Now they're all media-trained robots, too scared.
The Aussie larrikin is more or less being snuffed out, and that's the war on masculinity and also Australian masculinity. Think about Paul Hogan. Right, especially when he was younger and you had the Paul Hogan show. That was before my time, but I've seen some of those videos. Really funny comedy. That stuff would not be able to go on the news, not news, the TV now. It'd be cancelled. Some harpy will have it removed. People can't joke anymore. Everything's too serious. The Aussie culture was to take their mickey out of everything. Even when you're having a lot of adversity in your life, you push through, she'll be right. Make a joke out of it, try and move on. Everything is just so serious now. And this video does talk about immigration, so we'll get there. I won't start now about why the Aussie larrikin is more or less gone.
To show any personality or to say what they really think. Why? Because one wrong opinion can now ridiculously end your career.
Yep.
Just ask Israel Flower. He quoted the Bible on gay marriage, and his whole name, reputation, and career got completely ruined by the media and the woke sporting codes, which never used to be like that, by the way, these sporting codes, but they are now filled with DEI, vote yes, alphabet community, and welcome to country nonsense.
Couldn't agree anymore. I have no issue with people wanting to live the life that they want to live, but don't force it on people who don't particularly see eye to eye with you. So that Israel Folau was a rugby player and he was against gay marriage or gay relationships. And so he was saying stuff on social media and he was crucified. That's the thing. If you don't follow the script that's being written here, if you don't agree with all the woke and progressive stuff that's happening here and have an opinion differing to that, he didn't say anything, aggressive or violent or anything. He just gave a firm opinion on something. Gone. Wiped. Ruined his career. Witch hunt. People are too scared to speak up. Think about welcome to countries. Why should we be sitting in? Okay, let's take a corporate environment in Australia. Why, if you're sitting in a room with 3 people who are not Aboriginal, are we doing welcome to countries? Shouldn't a welcome to country be done by an Aboriginal person, not white people, not people of non-Aboriginal descent? It makes no sense. Think about it. I've been in these meetings and workshops with, 5, 10, 15 people, and you've got someone who's not Aboriginal doing welcome to country while there's no Aboriginals there. Why are we doing it? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Another example was Andrew Thorburn, the CEO of Essendon, who essentially got kicked out of his role and shamed because he goes to a church that doesn't support gay marriage. Which, by the way, it was only 36 years ago that homosexuality itself was a criminal offence in Queensland, Western Australia, and Tasmania. We used to be tough, straight talking, and unapologetically Aussie. Now we're wimpy, woke, and walking on eggshells.
And if you're not that, right? If you're not that, if you still have a backbone, have some masculinity, you'll be attacked. The old tolerant left, as they call it. Now, I'm not going to get political here, but it's progressive people from a progressive political view that will attack people who don't agree with their view. And so you'll be cancelled out of society. The cancel culture doesn't come from non-left leaning. People say, oh, you're a liberal, or I'm nothing. I don't lean anywhere. I don't care about politics. I don't grab onto other people's philosophies to run my own life. I run my life by my own philosophies.
And it's killing our nation's soul. There was once a time when the average Aussie could buy a house, raise a family, and live a good life all on a single income. The dream was simple: a home with a backyard, a stable marriage and family, a job with dignity, and a life with purpose.
I don't know about that. I think divorces and stuff like that have been happening forever, especially since the 70s. It's increased a lot. But this video isn't about that. But we can't romanticize that everything was perfect. There's always been battlers as well, and some people who haven't always been able to afford a house, and it wasn't like everyone just had a house and they just worked a job and life was perfect. But in comparison, absolutely think about people who have employment that was not, say, white-collared or university educated or trade employment. People who worked at, say, a supermarket full-time. And there's nothing wrong with that. That job needs to be done if that's your job. Not banging you on the head about it. I'm just saying it's doesn't require a lot of education. They could have a house, or you could have a unit, or you could have something that was yours if you're good with your money on what you earned. But now that's not possible. You're not going to be able to buy anything working at a supermarket on the average or below average wage in Australia. It's impossible. Impossible. And if you do, say maybe both of you have jobs that are non-skilled and you just get something, you're able to buy something, you'll buy something far worse than what you could have bought in the past for far more money and be stressed about money your whole life, i.e. the 30-year mortgage or more. If you keep refinancing and recutting loans and stuff like that, you'd be paying them forever.
Today, that dream is very much gone for the new generations. Rents and housing prices are through the roof. Groceries and petrol are way more expensive than they should be. And people are being told to make sure to be financially secure before having kids, and therefore are not having them, especially European people, and that's happening all over the West, not just Australia, but it is very bad here. The traditional family, mum, dad, kids, a yard, is unfortunately now more of a rarity and now seen as a problem in some cases, with that narrative being pushed by the recent foreign influenced media. And our government actually used to financially support married couples with children with the child endowment and family allowance policies to promote a healthy society and a healthy family unit. Now, they pretty much punish them.
Let's put your head down and work as an indentured servant on a mediocre quality of life comparative to what you've gotten in previous generations for the same work and output, and be happy about it, and just do that for the rest of your life. That's honestly where we're going. That's where we're heading. The working class is being eradicated. The middle class is being eradicated. What is middle class? You have a comfortable life. You go to work, you have a decent job, and you get rewarded for that. Being able to afford things. You contribute to the economy and pay your tax, however things are affordable. Your money is going a lot further. Now you got inflation of the dollar, the loss of buying power of that dollar, wage growth stalling, debt levels increasing, utilities increasing, all your necessities for life to exist, not even the wants, the necessities to live, are very expensive.
And the media mocks the very idea of the family unit as well, with the strong, independent woman that doesn't need a man type narrative, the cheating and the debauchery in almost every major film or TV show, and I could go on and on about these things. And the system, the government, and the media has influenced a lot of the sheep-minded people in our society to believe these things and to live out and practice these things. But us, the true Aussies at heart, we still want that Aussie dream. But they're trying to make it very hard for us to have it. In Australia...
It's just policy failure. That's all it is. It's short-sightedness. It's being completely sold out. Everything's privatized. Everything's owned by a foreign entity. You've got no control over anything here. We've sold out.
Women used to be able to walk home at night without fear, and mothers would let their kids play on the streets without a worry. That Australia almost seems to be gone. Crime is rising, streets feel unsafe, and people don't trust their neighbors, let alone even talk to them. And instead of fixing the problem, politicians and judges give so many criminals a slap on the wrist, especially a certain type of criminal. The solution is simple. Deport all migrants and asylum seekers who commit serious crimes, not giving them bail or extremely weak sentencings like they are now, and bring back tough sentencing for all violent offenders. Australia used to be extremely safe, and now...
Once again, okay, I'm going to say something that's going to grate the gears of some people. There's a lot of crime, a lot of violent crime being perpetrated by people, either by children of immigrants that come from violent countries where there's a lot of unrest and wars, who don't care about the rules here. They'll do whatever they want. And these people are just released. They're given a light sentence. They're getting slapped on the wrist. You know, I'm talking about knife crime. Think about all those recent attacks that have been happening at the shopping centres, the Westfields and all that sort of stuff around the state, this gang crime. It's just not by Aussie kids. Aussie by saying traditionally Australian. These are from immigrants. And it doesn't matter about skin colour. I'm not getting on with that. I'm not being racist. I'm blatantly saying facts. You've got the gangs of these kids out being completely unruly, home invasions, all sorts of stuff. You wouldn't even hear about that stuff. It would be very rare to hear about anything like that. Now it's on the news every night. There's an article on news.com.au every day. No, G-Man, you're racist. How am I racist? It's just straight up fact.
Things are changing. And if we don't do something about it and nothing major happens, we are probably going to end up like what we are seeing in the UK right now. Which leads me to my next point, immigration. To be straight up, Australia has always had immigration, but the type of immigration we used to have was from people of our same tradition and culture of European Christianity. And pretty much all the people that came here became Australian. They seamlessly slotted into our values and shared the dream. But that's not happening anymore. Today's immigration is fast, constant, and encouraged without even considering cultural differences and integration.
They don't care about it. It's about getting money for the visa process and money for extra taxation, right? So these people will come and get jobs, whatever job they can get. The company who employs them pays more payroll tax. That's another employee. This person pays income tax. And whatever other taxes are on the produce and essentials of life they need to pay. GST and all that sort of stuff. That's all it is. It's indiscriminate. The Australian economy is being propped up by this. You take away immigrants, and it's not a racial comment. I understand people wanting to come here for a good life. There are just too many people coming here. You take all that away for a few years, and all the stuff that's happening with property availability, the supply and demand of property, not being able to keep up with new developments, the cost of groceries, all those sorts of things, those things will start to improve because there's less demand on the system. Job availability, that's bad at the moment. A lot of layoffs. The economy in 2025, horrible in Australia. All these things happening, stifling business investment. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Underemployment is a thing. They say the unemployment rate is like 5.6 or something. I'd love to see what it actually is full-time unemployment. i.e. people not working 1 hour a week and being put in the employed bucket or whatever it is, or however they match the data. It's got to be more than that because I've heard a lot of layoffs happening recently. A lot of companies just have to cut back. They're being squeezed. They need to maintain their margins. Thousands and thousands of it are happening. Read them, Reddit, and read. Just Google it. A lot of it happening. It isn't overly reported in the media.
Suburbs have changed beyond recognition in just a decade, and anyone who dares to question it is immediately shouted down. This is not just about race, it's about culture, cohesion, and it's about preserving the soul and identity of a nation. And that soul was slowly and is now rapidly fading away. Australia once had clear moral boundaries. Our laws, our schools, our culture were shaped by Christian principles. Children were protected, public decency mattered, teachers were respected, and elders were listened to. Now, children are exposed to pornography and sharing it with one another in the classroom and schools. Drag shows for toddlers, TikTok filth and thirst traps everywhere on social media, crime with little to no consequences, and anyone who defends traditional or biblical values is cancelled. What used to be shameful is now celebrated in our culture, especially in the area of sex and sexuality, and what used to be honoured is now condemned. We used to be such a moral, upright, high-functioning society in Australia, and now...
I mean, look at that. Like all those manufacturing that we had here gone, processing plants gone, everything's gone. Ford doesn't even exist. Holden's gone. Everything's imported here. We're driving around in Korean and Chinese and Japanese cars. For the majority. Everything sold off, everything eroded, completely reliant on the global economy.
Now we're riddled with debauchery like porn culture everywhere, LGTV alphabet community nonsense, and no traditionalism. It's not just wrong, it's upside down, and the complete inverse of what society has been like in the West for the last 1600 years, from about 300 AD until about the 1970s. And it's producing a generation that's lost, broken, and confused. Shock. Let's just remove the morality standards that have made the West prosper for the last 1600 years and expect things to go well. Another big factor to the loss of what Australia once was has been the breakdown of the family unit. Marriage rates have plummeted, and somewhat for good reason, because the legal system is now fully weaponized against men, especially in the area of marriage with no fault divorce and all this stuff.
Yep. That deal's not very good. They need to overhaul that. I think it's why everything's too expensive. So people are deciding not to partner up. They're deciding to try and get if you can't pay for your own life, how can you pay for children and family? If you can't even afford a place that's yours, that you own, to have security, people don't want to bring kids into a world where they're battling. That's why there's a reduction in the population rate. Plus, people getting financially secure, if they're possibly able to do that, older in life, in their 40s, and trying to have IVF and all of that. So that's obviously impacting fertility rates and birth rates. Everything's changing because things are harder now. Things are happening later. The time and getting pushed out.
And speaking of that, divorce rates have gone through the roof, as well as fatherlessness. And some boys grow up without dads or only seeing them half the time. And girls grow up without any sense of traditional women role models. And the consequences are devastating. Depression, sometimes crime, and young women turning to degrading, stupid things like OnlyFans, identity crises, and all more. But the media...
That's actually greatly encouraged in the media. You go and look at any news.com.au article where they feature a adult content star creator. They glamorize it. And it's always female journalists writing this stuff. It's to indoctrinate women to do stupid things, to look up to them and think, I can make $40,000 a month if I just go and do this. There's a lot of it. Anyone who reads news.com.au, tell me, how often do you see these stupid articles? Absolutely degenerate behaviour by women on there to make it and normalise, and it is normalised.
Media doesn't talk about these things as a problem because the nuclear family now at times is somehow seen as oppressive to women or something like that. But children need mums to be mums and dads to be dads, and Australia needs strong families to survive. We used to be known for one thing, calling it like it is. In Australia, we were unfiltered, honest, even crude at times, but always real. Now we can lose our jobs for stating a biological fact. What happened to the larrikin spirit? What happened to being able to disagree without your career being destroyed?
Well, that all got snuffed out, and if you stand up and say something you believe in, you'll be called a bigot or something along those lines and be cancelled, even though people might even agree with what you're saying. People are too scared to speak up. Very progressive, especially here in Victoria. Victoria is like the San Francisco of Australia or Los Angeles. It's horrible. It's horrible here. If you're a masculine man, Aussie man, can't say or do anything. Victimised, stuff on the news every night about how all men are predators and all this sort of stuff, and rapists, and ending lives of women every night, and DV of women every night. There's never anything about the DV about women or the things that they do, the crimes they commit. Very rare. Against men especially. You don't really hear about that. Nah, man bad. All men bad.
Speech must be protected, not policied. We must defend the right to speak truth, especially when it's unpopular. Yet now, thanks to the new so-called hate speech laws in this country that are extremely arbitrary and not clear, by the way, you can be imprisoned for stating things that all of society would completely agree with you just 7 years ago. Because
that's it. Once again, scared into submission. You can't say anything, do anything. You can't say anything about women. We have you can't call women out on their stuff openly or criticise. There's a ministry for men or minister for men's behaviour or something like that. It's a full indoctrination thing going on here. Interesting world we're living in. If I was to look back to even 20 years ago, in the 2000s, when I would have been 18 years old and about as a young adult, life was so much more relaxed. Life was more chill. There was a lot more optimism. I had a lot more fun. And maybe a function of that is because I've gotten older and I've got more responsibilities. That vibe doesn't exist anymore. I don't feel that way about living here anymore. It's high pressure, high stress. You feel like you're on the edge of ruin a lot of the time. Where you feel like you have no control over your life. The government's coming in with all these taxes, taking money off your left, right, and centre. Superannuation tax and sugar taxes, and increasing things on guilty pleasures that people like cigarettes and alcohol, make those unaffordable. What fun is there? You just feel like you're working and then you die. That's more or less it. That's the feeling of most people, especially young kids coming through the system now with the inflated price of everything and not the inflated wages. So I'm just calling it out as it is. I'm not trying to be a commie. I'm not a communist or socialist. I don't subscribe to any of it. I call out all sorts of BS. The world is just different. The outlook isn't great. I really do hope things turn around. I just can't see it happening.
When speech dies, freedom is next. And I know that sounds kind of American coded, but I mean, it's still true. What we're seeing now is not even close to equality. It's preferential treatment. New arrivals to the country get handouts. Locals get high taxes that go to migrants and some other wasteful government projects. Quotas replace merit. Speech laws punish some and protect others. Christian or nationalist Australians are told to shut up and that they don't get to decide what happens in our country, even though it was Christian nationalists that founded and built our country. But every other group gets to flaunt their culture, beliefs, and identity.
Exactly right. I've got nothing against all that. Like you can't sell anything for Australia Day. You got your Woolworths or whatever that we're not putting out Australia Day stuff, and Big W and Kmart, but they're selling Diwali, Eid, Chinese New Year. I've got nothing against that. We're living in Australia. We can't celebrate Australian days of celebration, but it's okay to put Chinese New Year everywhere. What is going on here? What? Do you think you'd go to China and you get some people jumping up and down if a lot of Australians went over there, and that Chinese would just not have Chinese New Year anymore, and instead they'll have to celebrate Australia Day and put all the Australia Day merchandise in their stores and take down all their Chinese New Year celebrations? Just make it make sense to me, because it doesn't. I think I might leave it there. I think it's a really good video this guy's made. I really like the old footage that he's collated, and it does make me sad to see what life was like back then. Obviously, you can romanticize things. I know people had it tough back then. There's always been the Aussie butler. It's just that everything's been sold out. The quality of life has changed, and life is harder. Life is harder for the average punter. There's no way you can argue that. Now, you can still succeed. It's just more difficult than what it was. All right, all. Thank you for watching. See you in the next clip.